Hello, hockey, basketball, and soccer fans. My name is David. I thought I would start this video shortly after 1 on the afternoon of Tuesday, 24th of October, 2023, North American Eastern Time. Thought I would do is, before I go into hockey, to mention that the regular season for the Toronto Raptors will be starting this week with games on Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday Eastern Time. The first and third games at home, the one on Friday Eastern Time, away against the Chicago Bulls. Also later this week, the Vancouver Whitecaps will be facing off against LAFC for conference quarterfinal action in Major League Soccer. The Whitecaps were the only Canadian MLS team among them, CF Montreal, and Toronto FC to qualify. CF Montreal lost a close one to the Columbus Crew, 2-1 in regulation, thus pretty much killing CF Montreal's chances because enough of the remaining teams behind them had won their games or at least gotten points, and thus CF Montreal finished below even a wild card spot. Kind of too bad, but yeah, one of those when I tried to figure out how to activate Apple TV to try to watch the CF Montreal game. Decided to just listen to that game on the radio, and what a letdown. So I'm now going to go to this slate of games. 16 take place Eastern Time at the following times. Look at that. It's a staggering list of games, isn't it? And yeah, see about the starting lineup. I believe it's Joe Walls starting at the Capitals for the Leafs. It's gonna tweet here about the is there any a couple tweets from Mark Master to TSN. And yeah, it's Fraser Minten, healthy scratch. Well, it may be because Minten hasn't been performing that well. It hasn't really provided necessary offense, and that is not good. Hopefully, Minten will make his way and will be sent to the Canadian Hockey League and to further develop his game. And maybe later this season, the Leafs will use him. Alright, so what we're going to do is alright, so what we're just going to do is for the TSN games. So I know, like on ESPN, whatever, there are bits of American games. So TSN will feature the various games featuring Canadian teams. Well, there are 4 to be broadcast on TSN. Let's see what Sportsnet plans to do. See if there's anything there. Well, the other Canadian team. Is there anything there? Alright, let's see. Alright. And yeah, Sportsnet. Is what about Canadian teams that are on Sportsnet? Yeah. Just gonna figure out among those games that are just have to figure out here. So Oilers, Canucks, and Flames will be rather late ones. Oilers, Canucks, and Flames will be rather late ones on Sportsnet. And let's see what happens. See how many of them I get to. But the most important thing is, let's see what happens in the Leafs Capitals game. I may be doing some channel flipping, depending on how the Leafs do. And but again, in terms of being a Leaf fan, I'm also a realist, recognizing that defense has not been good in really any of the games the Leafs have played, having allowed 3 or more goals in the last 8 games going back to preseason play. That's right, 8 games in a row, 3 or more goals allowed. How long is that streak going to go? Hopefully it ends on Tuesday Eastern time against the Capitals. But that means defense and or goaltending will need to be better. Will it? Joe Woll was scheduled to start, according to Mark Master of TSN and the Locked On Leafs podcast co-host with that podcast series, part of the Locked On Sports series of podcasts. So yeah, the preview, very interesting preview. I highly recommend anyone watch that preview. And yeah, over the weekend, watched the Flames play the Wings at Little Caesars Arena, and Dan Vladar, backup goalie, having allowed this many ugly goals among this many goals he ended up giving up. Let's see what happens with the Leafs, but but the Leafs are definitely pushing their luck. Yes, the last 2 games have not featured the Leafs give up 4 or more goals, but for continuing for so long, but the Leafs can only give up 3 or more goals per game for so long before losses start coming in bunches. And that is, again, last season, the Canucks gave up 3 or more goals so often, they ended up dropping out, ended up starting off the regular season quite badly. 7 straight losses, 2 of them in overtime, and then ending up the regular season portion of October with 2 wins, 5 regulation losses, and 2 overtime losses. Bad enough for 6 points over 9 games. After 14, the Canucks had earned just 11, and with with the then most recent loss having come 5-2 in an away game against the Habs. Jason Brough, for the Halford Bro Show, having claimed in that relevant edition that the time had come for the Canucks front office and ownership group to stop tinkering around the edges and instead, quote, start using some dynamite, unquote. Well, it was very, very predictable reaction, an understandable one. The Canucks had been doing quite badly. They hadn't even earned half the available points in the 14 regular season games they had by then played. Yes, the Canucks would end up with 83 points over 82 regular season games, but it didn't. But there was not an easy journey there. Because I would say, the Canucks should have tanked for a number 1 overall, for a top 5 draft pick or so. There wouldn't have been a guarantee that the draft pick would have necessarily panned out. And also, it's about drafting. Drafting is also about scouting. Regardless, good scouting is a key to winning a Stanley Cup. Even getting to a Cup final means drafting. Means good scouting. And it hasn't really been the case with various Canadian teams, and it's no surprise that following the Canucks, that among Canadian teams from the 2009-10 season onward, just two, the Canucks and Habs, have made it all the way to Cup Finals. The Jets, Oilers, Sens, have all made conference finals, but last season, no Canadian team made it to a conference final. 2 seasons ago, the Oilers made it to a conference final but got swept. And when it comes to Canada's NHL teams, the Leafs are barely in a playoff spot. Will they beat the Capitals and end up in a top 3 divisional spot? The Wings are on fire. Bruins are on fire. Bruins are first in the Atlantic Division. Wings are not so distant second. The Habs are third. And among Canadian teams, the Habs are the only one to not have at least this many regulation losses. A rather respectable 3-1, 0-1 win, regulation loss, overtime loss, shootout loss record. A 3-1 win over the Sabres, in which Jake Allen went into full Thatcher Demko mode, stopping all but one Sabres shot in that game. Sabres outshot the Habs, I believe by a significant margin, but I have to look that up. I do thank ESPN for having the ability to search for scores of games. I mean, it's not easy to do with Sportsnet. At least ESPN is in the websites of the games gives a date in the year, month, day format. So it's very important. Very handy. It makes it much easier to search. Yes, it doesn't show Canadian TV networks for very relevant games, but that's okay. I mean, to have TSN covering the games to be played by the Jets, Leafs, Sens, and Habs. Sportsnet to cover those to be played by the Canucks, Flames, and Oilers. The only time any of those 3 teams are on TSN or TSN broadcasts if they end up playing, at least in some cases, any of the Jets, Leafs, Sens, and Habs. So I do get those TSN broadcasts at the time of those games featuring Canadian teams, but let's see when that happens. Wednesday Eastern Time will not feature a single game with a Canadian NHL team in action. I'm just gonna try to wrap things up. So Thursday there will be fewer games, which predictably is the case. Not all 32 NHL teams are going to be in action, but I'm going to see the Habs in one of the earlier games hosting the Blue Jackets. Jets will be at Little Caesars Arena to play the Wings. The Sens will be in Elmont to face the Islanders. Leafs will be quite a bit further away from that, take on the Dallas Stars in northeastern Texas. Flames and Oilers will be respective hosts of the Blues and Rangers. So very interesting. There's going to be a Thursday set of games. Friday, let's see if there are any Canadian teams in action. There will be one. The Canucks facing the Blues at home. 10 Eastern Time broadcast start. And then we go to the Saturday matchups, and if there's a Canadian team in action, we'll see the Habs host the Jets. Sens Sens and Leafs in away games against, respectively, the Pens and Preds. And in the late game, feature the Canucks host the Rangers. So that's going to be all for this week. I mean, I know in some countries the work week, the week starts on a Monday. But when it comes to this particular week, that'll be kind of it for the game. I mean, I consider Sunday to be the start of the week, but I think I'll just go with the Sunday game, see if there are any Canadian teams in action. And yeah, there's that Heritage Classic. There are only two Canadian teams. It'll be the Oilers hosting the Flames. It's definitely going to be an interesting one. But it'll be interesting to find out what the playoff implications are, but then whether either Alberta team will manage to get into a playoff spot. I mean, both have struggled. I mean, hopefully Joe Woll, if he does indeed get the start against the Capitals, will help the Leafs to a win. The Leafs will be able to take advantage of the Capitals' various weaknesses. Will that happen? We'll have to see what happens. But there's no doubt that the Leafs face Capitals, played 2 away games against the Capitals this season. Last season, the Leafs played 1 away game of the 3 that the two teams played against each other. Do I see the Leafs facing the Capitals other than the regular season play this season? It's not likely to happen. First of all, the Leafs have yet to... It's been a while since those two teams did face each other in postseason play during the 2017 Stanley Cup playoffs. That was when the Leafs had been in the second Eastern Conference wildcard spot, and the Capitals have been, President's Trophy winners, and thus automatically in first in the Eastern Conference. So unless the Capitals finish in a wildcard spot and the Leafs finish in the right, in first place in the Atlantic, a Caps Leafs opening round playoff series is unlikely. It's almost certain not to happen. There could be the Leafs finish in a wildcard spot and the Caps finish in first. But given how poorly the Capitals have played, yeah, Leafs will be lucky to face the Capitals after the third and final regular season game between those two teams. So I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to say, with respect to relevant upcoming regular season and postseason games, go Leafs go Raptors go Whitecaps go, and go Canada go.